guys, it's Danielle. Welcome back to LocsSoFine. If you're new here, welcome. If you are returning, then welcome back. On this channel, I talk about micro locks, sister locks, any types of tiny locks, specifically from the point of view from fine low density hair. On this channel, you can also hear me talking a little bit about my shop called LocsSoFine, where I sell satin hair protection items like headrest covers and bonnets and scrunchies. So welcome to the video, guys. So in this video, just like my signature style, I'm gonna be like real with y'all because it is what it is. It's like there's no reason to lie about it. And I want to talk about some things that people say or like do about micro locks that are actually, like, in my opinion, okay, disclaimer, this is the opinion of Danielle from LocsSoFine. Okay, so you can disagree. If you do, leave a comment below and be like, yeah, I don't think the same as you, because I love a good discussion, and I think that it can only be fruitful for people who are looking for answers in the micro locks and sister locks realm. So also, if you're interested in joining my Facebook group, I do have a Facebook group called LocsSoFine. You can find it on Facebook. We are about 3,000 strong, which is so crazy. In there you can find inspiration, you can ask questions, you can even ask me questions that I will feature in a Q&A video. I make those periodically. It's the majority of the people in that group are people with fine hair, thin hair, low density hair with micro locks and sister locks. But if you don't have those, you can also feel free to join. The link is in the description below. All right, so let's get started. Listen, I think that one of the things that is getting a lot of people in trouble, you guys have seen my scams video, so you already know, I feel like people, they lie and they scam and they do all those types of things. But I think another one of those things that we need to be aware of before you invest in micro locks, whether it's your own time doing DIY or if you're paying a lot of money or if you're getting extensions or whatever, is like, what is the actual truth about micro locks, and then also what is actually falsehoods? What are some misconceptions that people have? And I have a few things written down that I feel like you should be aware of that may be misconceptions, but if you have any that you would like to add, please post them in the comments below, because like I said, discourse is always really good. So I'm going to get right into it. The first one is that micro locks are hair freedom. Now hear me out here. So micro locks and sister locks enable you to be able to, for the most part, wake up in the morning. Look, I woke up this morning, I sprayed my hair with a little bit of something, which was actually this hydrating rose water. If you're interested, I'll link it in the description below. It fluffed my hair right up. I put on this little headband here, and I'm good, right? I'm really good to go. But that doesn't equate hair freedom in that, like, you don't have to do anything to your hair. And I think that's the misconception, is that because you have micro locks or because you have sister locks, you don't have to do anything at all to your hair. You could just get up and go on a daily basis, but there is a significant amount of maintenance that happens periodically. And for some people, that's every 4 weeks. For some people, that's every 8 weeks. It just depends. But periodically, you're going to have to do something. Okay, so let me explain that. You have to do what's called retying your hair or retwisting your hair, because some people do have palm rolls where you could just palm roll and retwist your hair. After you have your hair interlocked, whether you DIY it or you have somebody else do it, it could take anywhere from, in my case, 33 hours up to a few days if you're doing it by yourself, because your arms might get tired. You want to be careful of your grid, all those things, right? Your hair is still going to grow. And as your hair grows, you're going to have new growth. You have to do something with that new growth. If you get up to the count of 200, 600, in my case, I have 511 locks, you're going to have to spend a significant period of time every few weeks or so retying your locks. And that just means re-interlocking the part that grows, because your hair doesn't grow already interlocked. Like, I think some people think it's like magic where your hair just like already grows like that. No, you have to re-interlock it. So for example, with my hair, as you can see, it's starting to get a little bit puffy up here along the roots. This is it's new growth, right? So what's going to happen with that new growth is that I'm going to have to go to my loctician, and I have an appointment next week. She's going to spend time re-interlocking my roots, or like I said, some people get retwisting into the hair so that it can start locking together. And what that means is a significant investment of time significant investment, in my case of money, because I'm having somebody else do it. And so yes, your day-to-day will include more freedom than having to do your hair, and you'll have these long stretches of time where you don't have to do anything to your hair. But some people take 4 days, some people take an entire weekend. In my case, it takes about 4 hours because somebody else is doing it. And that means that people combine their locks, they do other things so they have less locks, because it's not hair freedom all the time. You're still gonna have to maintain. Another thing is that you're gonna have to pay attention to your locks and do some lock grooming. Lock grooming is the care of locks and fixing and repairing things that might happen to your locks. Some things that might include lock grooming is getting lint out of your locks, fixing holes in your locks, fixing bunching in your locks, some locks that might need to be combined, things like that that you still have to do. It doesn't mean that you get your micro locks one time and then, yeah, you're good to go and your hair is free for the rest of your life. No, there's still maintenance to it. The next misconception, and again, please don't come for me, but if you disagree, like, put it in the comments below, is that locks are not for everyone. They're just not, and especially tiny locks. And the reason why is because partially some of that I mentioned before about the time commitment, and that's why I feel like you see a lot of people like Finity, who I was watching her channel for a while, and other people who they just like, they end up with issues related to the micro locks, and then they need to take them out of their hair. And I think that sometimes people feel like they can say something like, oh, well, she should have never, or she did this, she did that. But guys, remember, it's like a hairstyle. So if a person decides they don't want them anymore, or it's too much maintenance, or they're having too many issues for them, then it just might not be for them. I think that for anybody who's thinking about investing in something like a tiny lock, micro lock, sister lock type of situation, you need to really weigh the pros and cons and be like super realistic with yourself about whether or not you want to retie and do your own hair, or you have the money to invest long term into your hair after that initial commitment that you made. Like, I think in my first year I probably spent $2,000 or around about. I could do the math, but let's just say $2,000. And as I keep going, if I go every 4 to 6 weeks and I'm spending like $140, that's a significant commitment. In addition to the appointments that I have to make time for, I have to schedule those, you know, and sometimes they have to be during the day, and I have to use like time off or whatever to get to those appointments. Also, there's stages to locks, and I think again that people have like sometimes forget that, you know, hey, locks is matted hair. Locks are not like curly ends and stuff. And so think about if like really like for real locks are the right thing for you, and make your decision that way. I'm not going to belabor that point because I have talked about that a lot in like, you know, my regrets and stuff like that. If you want to watch that video, I'll link it in the description below about micro lock regrets. And then in the scams video, I talk a little bit about that as well. But locks are not everybody's thing, and that's totally okay. I think you just have to make sure that they're for you. If not, just admire from far, like, you know, from afar, and just be like, oh, I love her hair, but I'm just gonna be a loose, natural type of person. Another misconception I think is that locks are permanent. So in a lot of ways, it's just going to depend on what you're willing to do to remove your locks if you decide that you don't want them, and how your locks were started. If your locks were started like palm rolling, or if you don't have as many locks, then yeah, if your hair hasn't been locked for that long, it would probably be a lot easier if you decide to comb them out. One of the misconceptions though is that, like, you know, you're gonna have to cut your hair off if you get locks, and you don't have to. I think that if it were me, I probably would start like growing them out or something like that, and I probably would comb them out because I don't want to like not have any hair. But you have to be aware of, you know, the pros and cons to that, and if you decide that you don't want your locks anymore, what would be the right method of removal for you. But you don't have to cut all your hair off if you don't want your locks anymore. It's just gonna be the condition of your hair after you after you comb them out and you get all of the matted hair out might be not as good as you want it to be, but you still could possibly comb them out. They're not necessarily irreversible all the way. And even some locticians actually have a lock comb out service, where they'll remove the locks for you if you don't feel confident in taking them out yourself, and do your deep conditioning to help you maintain your hair until your new growth is coming out enough that that hair that possibly is damaged from the combing and stuff like that to get the locks out is all the way grown out. And again, that depends. I feel like interlocking is a little bit harder to get out, especially in the parts where it's interlocked but it's not completely locked yet, than other ones are. But it's not necessarily irreversible. The last one is funny because I'm really trying to change like my mind about it, but that idea that there's like no ugly stage. Listen, I'm about to pop up some pictures. I feel like in that time, I was like, girl, you are rocking this. This is so beautiful and all these types of things. But we can call it different things. I've been starting to change it to the starter phase. Like, it's not necessarily ugly, but I don't think that the beginning stage of everybody's locks is attractive. And I honestly don't think that mine were attractive. I just think I was so in love with the process at that point that I didn't really care what other people thought. So it didn't really bother me. But the idea that there's like no unattractive stage to locks, I think is a lie. And let me talk about that from the fine low density perspective. Imagine your hair is already like finer, right? Like ours is, and the density of your hair is low. So it's like you can see a lot of scalp, and then you interlock it into these tiny little locks, and then you come home and you tell your husband like, "Look what I did, honey," and he's like, what, right? Or you put a lot of pride in your hair. The honest to goodness truth is that for some people, the starter phase is not, it's ugly. Can I say that? Can I say that? I know I probably said like, don't say ugly stage and like, let's try to use this. And I don't say that, but you will have to go through some type of unattractive stage, especially when you don't have as much hair, because your hair is going to look more scalpy. It's going to look flat if it was interlocked. And I think the best way to combat that, like I said, is to figure out some styles that will add more body to your hair, to wear your hair up, or if you want to cover it. I wasn't about covering mine. And then also to remind yourself that that is temporary. It's not going to last forever, and surround yourself with people who will hype you up. And like, for example, I mentioned the LocsSoFine Facebook group. There's women in there every day who are like, y'all, I got my locks. It's so cool. And they get so excited about it. And that's what it's all about, to help you make it through that stage. But to say that there's no ugly stage at all, I think is a lie. But we can change our rhetoric around it, and we could call it something different. And instead of looking at the bad, we can look at solutions to try to mitigate and help that process along. If you're interested in more videos like this one, where I discuss things that have to do with microlocks, specifically from the spine low density hair perspective, then you can click on this video right here where I talk about microlock regrets that I had on my lock journey, because there were a few. Bye.